Welcome to PSA Podcast on this celebration of the 105th birthday of the PSA. We are joined on our podium by the President, Mr. Justice Shiburi, who is joining us on the specific talk as we reach this milestone, and we are also joined by the General Manager. It is an opportunity for us to reflect on the last 105 years, where we have been, where we are, and where we are going. The PSA is a union that has evolved over time, has evolved in so many phases and in so many ways. And I think that it's opportune that as we reach our 105th birthday, we look back at some of the milestones that we have overcome. And I think for me, one of the first questions that I have is to our general manager, who has been here for quite some time. What is the PSA? What was the PSA like? And what is the PSA like now for you that stands out, the difference between the then and the now, the positive things?
Thank you very much, Olivia. Thank you very much. Thank you, President, for being part of this conversation. Firstly, I just want to take it back when I joined the PSA in 2004. One would see that I joined the correct trade union when I started working here, whereby you can relate with the values of this organization. One could also relate with the manner in which communication is between members, structures, and the administration. And the PSA's strength lies on the three spheres that I've mentioned: the members, structures, and the administration. So that gives a good complement of, making sure that skills, knowledge, and members' issues are well attended. While members raise issues, they know that they've got structures to resolve towards, and at the same time, if to render that professional service, then you've got this element of the administration. The PSA grew from 167,000 members then. Today, PSA is sitting at 250,000 plus membership. So we're one of the almost trade unions in the country that grows from time to time, strength to strength. We represent the public sector in general. It's unfortunate that we don't find ourselves in other spaces, but it's merely for the issue of scope. But we have really made a mark as the union of choice. It's not by fluke that today we are sitting at 105 years of excellent service. That talks to the values of this organization. The founders of this organization in 1920, to date, they have been consistent in terms of one thing, which is about the values of this organization. And we believe that as long as the PSA carries the values as they are, we're not going to find any reason that why we can't reach another century in the next years. I hope that will be there.
Thank you. Mr. Shiburi, you have climbed through the ranks. You started off as a shop steward. I think, I'm not sure if anybody is aware of that. You started off as a shop steward. And I think back in the day, you did cases, you went through, what are some of the highlights for you in retrospect when you look back as one of the things that has actually grown the union from a structure perspective, What was the kind of structures that you had back then, the caliber of shop stewards that we have brought through the ranks and the PSA that we now see today in light of those structures?
Thank you so much, Pierre, and then thanks, General Manager, for being part of this. And then I would like to welcome the opportunity afforded. Indeed, it is true that I'm a public servant myself. I joined the public sector 2002. Upon joining the public sector, we introduced to various unions. And when you look at what each of these unions stands for, look at the constitution, everything, and the composition thereof, it was an easy choice for one to make to say, look, PSA, it's the way to go. I had to join PSA for that reason. They were non-political. They were not influenced by the noises outside. By that time, I didn't even know that it was the union of choice. But when I got there, I then started learning all these things. Indeed, as an activist myself, I was then introduced to, public sector. The dynamics have been changing from back then up until, the new dispensation came in. And then when I look at it, those that were making a lot of noise, you found that they were now losing a bit of a grip when it comes to the interest of the working class. And then I've learned that many of our members back then, they were not astute much about their own rights. They were still shaken about the politicians' noise, thinking that whatever it said, that side it has to go. But over time, that has changed. And I can tell with PSA, we're so grateful. I remember when I was reading a little bit, I learned back in the days, women were not regarded as full-time employees. When there's that time when we get pregnant, when you go to maternity leave, you had to, after coming from maternity, you had to apply for a position or all afresh. And then PSA said, this cannot be happening. And with those things, we are happy today to say that each and every gender within our society, we are regarded and treated with care. And then even our ladies are the employees. And we've seen, yes, we have got people like yourself as the professional managers of a very vibrant union like the PSA. And we are so grateful about the milestone that we have achieved thus far. We have even fought, even at the leadership, whether I started the parliament, institution, department, government departments, we have seen women having slowly climbing into those positions of leaderships. And then that cannot be attributed to anything but the contribution that PSA has made. And for that, we are forever grateful. So we are saying PSA, we are a force to be reckoned with. At the PSA, we are a leader in the society and we are not going anywhere. So South Africa needs us and we will be there to render our service to the best of our ability.
Andres.
Thank you so.
I think for me, when we talk about the evolution of the PSA and obviously within the legal framework of the Labour Relations Act, we can never really separate it from some of the most important steps that the PSA has taken as a union in its individual state. And I think for me, what sticks out is probably some of our industrial actions. All right. What would be some of GM? What would be some of the industrial actions that you believe shaped the union? Shaped our identity, helped to separate PSA from other unions, helped to separate the PSA from the public, from the general unions that we find in the public service. There's a couple I can remember, but which ones would you say shaped us?
Look, firstly, let me also appreciate the fact that subsequent to the enactment of the Act, the LRA in 1905, that gave to Section 37 that established the Public Stage Coordinating Bargaining Council. We are proud to say PSA was one of the trade unions that actually are the founders of the PSABC that brought about other sector bargaining councils. We have played a huge role in ensuring that we shape the policies of the state through negotiations. We are one of the trade unions that will participate fully in all chambers of sectoral bargaining councils, fully represented by both the members through the structures and the officials. So the PSA has made a huge contribution. One of the most striking issue was the industrial strike that we embarked on early in 2004, where it was around September. And that was the time that everybody believed that PSA is, that wide union that would not be able to strike. And we have been associated many times. And we need to emphasize the fact that PSA is an independent trade union, not aligned to any political party. And we don't favor any kind of political party that this is our political party. We are neutral, we are independent. And we can never forget also the strike of 2022, whereby we took the strike by storm and we went on our own as a PSA, and other trade unions were behind. And we led them to show them that you got nothing about politics. We are here to ensure that we further the interest of members. And the rest followed after we have gone on strike and we have shown the way. One of the strikes that one can remember is the SARS strike. SARS, where you recall that other trade unions were hesitant, were not willing to go strike. And PSA we took on and we went on strike. And when they tried to join it, already the employer was already conceded to our demands. So we are a force to be reckoned. And I'm glad that the broader society, the public servants, have come to their senses to understand that the PSA only stands as a union, and nothing will ever shake PSA. We know that in some corners, because of our strength and also our position, which we don't compromise, some would want to wish us away. But I can assure you, Olivia and the president, that we are going to go to celebrate our 105 years on the 7th of July as a very strong, independent trade union, not influenced in any way, but only serving the members' rights. And I'm sure that by the time the PSA reaches another centenary, we'll still be here to celebrate. I hope that we live that longer.
I hope so. President, I think that with the coming, obviously, with how far we have come, there's been a guiding document that has guided us to get to where we are, the statute, right? If you were to talk to a young person today in 2025 and explain the importance of that document and how it has shaped us, I think, we saw an emergence, I think it was around 2019, where we believe that the structures, came to a place where they embraced the statute and also began to see its advantages for them, how it was shaping the organization, the advantages of how it also fostered engagement amongst all the various stakeholders within the PSA as a document, right? But if I'm young and today I want to join the PSA, what would you tell me about the statute?
Thank you so much, Pierre. It is my personal belief that he who doesn't have an identity doesn't know where she's going. A statute is a guiding document which gives us some sort of an identity as a union. To say there are parameters that it needs to work within. There are do's and the don'ts. And then it also assists us on how do we then conduct ourselves in order to further the business that we're in. We must always remind ourselves that we are here to protect the rights of the working class, to promote the interest of those working class through institutions or forums like the general managers mentioned, the councils, PCPC, and then the various words. So to me, it is very important that we really understand who we are, what do we stand for, and when we look at our statute itself, it is beautiful in a sense that it is crafted in such a way that it caters for even the values, which talks to the issue of respect, which talks to the issue of trustworthy, which talks to the issue of honesty. And then with those kind of characters and the principles, if you are to internalize them and make it your own DNA, you won't go wrong in life, because that shows that you are honest to yourselves, and then what people see is that's what you represent and what you stand for. As a result, with PSA, we don't say A, B, C today. Once we get out of the space when we are somewhere else to say D, E, F, that cannot be correct. And then it is through the guidance of that documents, the guiding documents, we call it statute, others refer to as a constitutions. But yes, it is the beauty of our statute that we are behaving the manner that we are behaving. And thanks to the people like yourself, professional managers, because we know that when you go to those meetings where we can't all be, some of us, you emphasize the importance of us adhering to our own statute, because that's the Bible that we need to live with by the daily basis. Thank you so much.
100%. I think also probably, as we move past and we go to celebrate milestone after milestone, whether it's 105, 106, I think that we need to, if you were to have a conversation, GM, with a young man who takes over this union, let's say 60 years from now, what would be your advice to that person?
Firstly, I will say, let's take one of our values. That would be consistency.
Yeah.
Do everything consistently, then everything will fall. I would not say there's anything extraordinary that we are doing. All what we do is to be consistent in everything that we're doing. Communication, representation, respect, member participation, consistently.
Yeah.
If we do everything consistently as we are, even those who want to take you to courts, they will not win, because what we are doing is consistent with legislation, consistent with policies, consistent with good governance. Everything should be within the context of our way, consistency. So once you do something else that is not consistent with the law, policies, and everything else, then that's where you'll find wanting. And hence, anybody that tried, establishing some small unions, some even trying to sabotage us to courts, some even go outside of the ordinary, sabotaging congresses.
Yeah.
Those things have failed because they are not consistent with what PSA stands for. Remember, PSA is a person, a juristic person. So if you do anything contrary that is not consistent with the PSA, it's like an ocean. It will throw you out. Some in very big positions in leadership, they are nowhere to be found today. Why? Because they are not consistent with the principles, the laws, and the statute of the PSA. If you want to be the PSA, this is the message I can give you. If you want to remain in the organization and be part of this journey for the next 100 years, just be consistent. And everything will come automatically. I would say to you, Olivia, as a younger person today, to say, if you want to see PSA one day, you say, but Olivia was here. She was a labor relations. She was a PM. She is in this position. Why? Only thing that you do is consistency. You do everything according to the principles, the legislation, the statute, everything that PSA stands for, that is principles. I can confirm that we'll see the PSA living the next 100 years. So that is the message I can give to anyone that would want to see PSA reaching another 100 years of service.
PSA is a juristic person. And I think that is what, I'm taking away, I think, mostly from what the GM is indicating, that PSA is a person. It's a personality. And I think for me, President, as we about to wrap up, what would you say, as a juristic person, as a person, what is it that the PSA has for the public service for the next coming 100 years that distinguishes it from the other unions? And in your own view, how would you sum up the personality of the PSA? What kind of a person is the PSA? What kind of force is the PSA? What does it stand for? What does it represent? Who does it represent? Who does it stand for? Who is it that we want to attract, coming into the union, even in the foreseeable future? What is our vision, based on the information that we have of the statistics of the amount of members that we have versus what we would like to reach? What would be your answer to that?
Thank you so much. Perhaps if one is to merely to what the general manager have said on the part of the consistency, one would also want to put in the issue of respect and an honesty. Have a self-respect, have a respect for the job that you are doing, have a respect for the member that you are serving, have a respect for the country that you are serving. Because PSA, we are a union of a public servants. And as a public servants, first, thank you so much. We are having a role to play to our society to see to it that our country becomes the developmental state that we all wish to see. And it is through us as the public servants who can achieve such by rendering the services that is very much appreciated by the public out there. You can only do that if you are true to yourself, you're honest, knowing your space, knowing what is expected of you. It is true that if you don't have a self-respect, you won't have respect for others to the extent that you will feel that you are a PSA unto yourself. And then that's very wrong. So we are representing the entire society, and we are saying PSA is the future. We believe that PSA is very relevant. And then for as long as the public sector will be growing, they will be employing more, absorbing more. It is for us now to look at the younger generation. to the younger generation, if we don't have more voice or more power as a PSA to negotiate, the status quo will remain. Our monies will be benefiting people out there. And as a PSA, we can tell we have already submitted an item to say left rather than have a government employee housing scheme whereby the members of the public, they can have their housing at a very reasonable cost. Because many of them right now start they are destitute because it doesn't make any sense for you. You don't have the low-cost housing because you are earning above a certain threshold. Again, you don't have a roof over your head because you cannot afford a bonded house because of your earnings. I call it all this younger generation to come to PSA. We're saying if we are to have out of 1.2 million public servants, what to have 800 public servants belonging to PSA, life will be very easy. We have seen how we fought so hard to put a stop on the ESCOM when people were getting into the government employee pension fund to keep all spending on that pitless hold called the ESCOM. We said cannot be okay, not under our watch. And we have stopped many of those things. And we are saying for us to have that voice that can be listened to, let all the younger generations find hope in PSA because PSA is the future.
PSA is the future. And I think, the president has spoken. And I think, they say, don't say much after your elders. So I really want to thank you for your time. I want to thank you for, the engagements that were mind, opening. And I really trust that the youth out there who are watching, the women who are also watching, the target markets, which we are trying to also expand to, that as they listen to this interview, they, kind of get a sense of where is it that they fit into the PSA, which is going for another 100 years, And I think the picture is clear. The picture is that there are things and there are platforms where an individual cannot fight for themselves. And that is where the PSA comes in. There are places where NEDLEX need to be engaged. That is where the PSA comes in. So, through obviously our federation, FEDUSA. So, we are grateful for the time and also for the insights that had been shared, for the wisdom that you have brought to this discussion today. I really just, to me, want to thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pierre. Thanks, Jeb. And thanks to everyone who belongs to PSA. And thanks to Public of South Africa for understanding that for you to go forward, there's no other vehicle than the PSA.